All right. This one is going to be a weird one. I hope I make it until the end. It's going to be about Delphi. I'll be reading a little bit about Delphi, the Temple of Apollo, and the famous dictum, Know thyself. I am not an expert, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Um, I'm not trying to convince or change people's minds. I'm also not trying to rescue anyone. That's crazy. This world is already a messed up place. If you found a nice, comfortable place and a nice, comfortable set of beliefs, good for you. Why would I want to rob you out of that? It's just crazy, right? When you see people going about in a mission trying to convince people, you have to believe what I believe, that's just crazy. Or rescue them. Rescue them, I think it's even worse. When someone becomes used to being rescued, they don't develop, you know. We were all born with a spine that kind of gives us some autonomy. We go about our lives and we ought to, use this autonomy to grow, to develop. Yeah. If people, you know, just get used to being saved, they don't develop. There's going to be a lack of content, a lack of character, an absence, almost a lack of spiritual dimension, or there will be an absence. And sometimes, psychiatrists, psychoanalysts, they call this one of the faces of narcissism. Is It's this void, this absence of spirituality, for instance. And people who suffer from this, they will try to find stuff to fill the void. For instance, a cult or the current thing. The current thing is always about chaos, you know, emotions running wild. So there's going to be a group that will be very highly attractive to the current thing. It will temporarily fill the void, and it's all about me, 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 and they will, try to scream at people to be, temporarily the center of attentions. You know, look at me. They become the loudest persons in the crowd. Anyway, that's a group activity, by the way, and you won't find any truth in group activities, in groups or in whatever. Um, so the title of this article is the capital E at Delphi. The essential procedures of initiatory rites by which the death of an old man and the rebirth of a new man are effected, and the conditions of access to the penetralia are alike all over the world. So I googled quickly, what does it mean, penetralia? It's something like sanctuary or hidden place. So the conditions to access to this sanctuary are similar all over the world. This Latin writer called Firmicus Maternus, he wrote a book about the Egyptians, De Errore Profanarum Religionum, something like On the Error of Pagan Religions. Dealing with these subjects reminds us that there are right answers to the right questions, and that the right answer is made by the initiate, precisely as the proof of his right to be admitted. A typical example, this also repeats in another culture, in India. A typical example of such sign, of such signum, and of the wrong and right answers can be cited from the Jaimaniya Upanishad Brahmana. When the deceased reaches the sun door, the question is asked, "Who art thou?" If he answers him his own or by his family name, he is dragged away by the factors of time. He should respond, "Who I am is the light thou art." So, what does it mean, dragged away by the factors of time? If he answers wrongly, he's going to be put back in the wheel of reincarnation. All right? If he answers correctly, he will be allowed to pass through the door and then escaping the wheel of reincarnation, right? So let us continue. As such, okay, he should respond, "Who I am is the light thou art. As such, have I come to thee, the heavenly light." He, the Prajapati, the sun guardian, will reply, "Who thou art, that same am I." So who you are is the same as me. Who I am, the same art thou. Who I am, the same you are. Enter in. Of numerous parallels that might be cited, perhaps the most striking is Rumi's myth of the man who knocked at his friend's door and was asked, "Who art thou?" He answered, "I." "Begone," said his friend. After a year's separation and tribulation, he came and knocked again, and to the same question replied, "This thou art at the door," and received the reply, "Since thou art I, come in, O myself." So what's going on here? Let's break down the Egyptian religion. So Mahat is the Prajapati, the sun. Mahat is the guardian. And you have to go through the guardian, right? The same way in the Abrahamics, you have to go through God, through Christ, right? To be saved, right? Only through him will you be saved, right? Only through Mahat. So you have to go through Mahat. So Mahat will ask you the same question, "Who art thou?" If you answer wrongly, for instance, "I am so and so, I am this age, I have a car, I have money," that's just, ego, the psychophysical, and stuff like that. He will look at you. You answered wrongly, turn around and go back into the meat grinder. If you answer, "Oh, I am the light," the same as you, and he will, if then he will recognize you as the divine, because in each one of us there's a piece of the divine. Which one will you choose when you meet the Mahat or the Prajapati at the sun door? Who will you choose, the ego, the psychophysical, or the divine? Which piece will you choose? You can choose to go back to the meat grinder or to pass through the door. This is entirely up to you. But some people are ignorant of this. They didn't know what to answer. So Mahat gave humans 42 guidelines. Okay, if people follow these guidelines, maybe they would develop this character that I talked in the beginning. Maybe you will develop a character, a backbone. You will develop a personality. You will develop, a spiritual dimension. Yes. The 42 guidelines, mostly about truth, justice, what's beautiful, truth, justice, and what's beautiful. It's what? Attributes of the divine. So if you went through your life the closest possible to the divine, maybe you would be wise enough to answer Mahat when he weigh the feather, when he weighed the feather. So the Abrahamics kind of did similarly, but not 42 guidelines, 10 guidelines, right? Follow these 10 guidelines and then you will be judged by the guy at the sun door, right? Same thing. In the side of the east, there was similar in, like I read, mentioned in the Upanishads, and also by Gautama. Gautama, he had his own version, which was based on the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. It's kind of a spin-off. He called it the Noble Eightfold Path. If you follow these noble 8 rules, later I think it became 10 rules, you would become wise enough to escape the wheel of reincarnation. So when you met Prajapati at the door, he would ask you, "Who art thou?" And you would answer correctly or not. It depends on you, I suppose. So let's continue. Now, there can be no question that the entrance to the temple of Apollo at Delphi was literally a sun door, a way into the house or temple of the sun. The superscription, "Know thyself," demands a knowledge of the answer to the question, "Who art thou?" and may be said, in the veiled language of the mysteries, to ask this very question. Um, the injunction, as Plutarch says, is addressed by the god to all who approach him, and assume that both these meanings are contained in one enigmatic syllable. We have the signum, "Who art thou?" at the door, and the responsum, "The sun, thou art, am I." It is certain that no other true answer could have been given by anyone qualified to go in unto the union with the sun. I'm going to read a small verse here. I am the bird caught in the net of illusion. I am he who bows down the head and the one whom he bows. I alone exist. There is neither seeker nor sought. When at last I realized unity, then I knew what had been unknown, that I had always been in union with thee. I am the sin that from myself rebelled, I the remorse that toward myself compelled. Pilgrim, pilgrimage, and road was but myself towards myself, and your arrival but myself at my own door.